Council, Dr. Adeniyi Balogun. Can we put our hands together for him, please? We also have in our midst a member of the Governing Council representing the congregation, a former registrar of the Polytechnic at Itori, distinguished university members. Please, let's put our hands together for Mr. Olujimi Ogudimi. We are all expected to stand, please, in reverence of this procession that is filing in place. Thank you very much as we do so. Thank you. Thank you very much. The procession is filing in. We are all expected to stand in reverence for the procession, please. Thank you. On the procession, we have the dean. In this hallowed chamber, we also have our former Deputy Vice-Chancellor Academic and currently the Vice-Chancellor of Alitia University, Agowe, Professor Olukayode Akiyemi. Please, let's put our hands together for him. Thank you very much. On the procession, we have the Dean College of Biosciences, Professor Aigboje Kehinde. We also have the Dean College of Physical Sciences, Professor Victor Makinde. We have the Director Institute of Human Resources Development, Professor Adewi. The Dean College of Plant Science and Crop Production is on the procession, Professor Bola Jobi. The Director, Agricultural Media Resources and Extension Center is under procession, Professor Jacob Olaoye. We have the Dean Postgraduate School on the procession, Professor Akinde. The Dean College of Agricultural Management and Rural Development is also in the procession, is Chairman of CODAD, Professor Emmanuel Fakoya. The Registrar is just approaching the seat, Dr. Titus Adeniyi. The Deputy Vice-Chancellor Academic, Professor Olusegun Idowu. And we have the convocation, the third convocation lecturer, Mr. Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede. And the Vice-Chancellor of this great citadel of learning, Professor Babatunde Kehinde. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear university community members, the national anthem, please. Babatunde Kehinde. Please let's put our hands together for him. I would also like to recognize specially the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, Dr. Marcus Ogunbiyi. Please let's put our hands together for him. We have in our midst the Deputy Vice-Chancellor Academic, Professor Olusegun Idowu. The Deputy Vice-Chancellor Development is also here with us this afternoon, Professor Olawale Dairo. The Registrar is on the top table. Distinguished members of the university community is also the Secretary of the Convocation and also Secretary of the Council. Please join me in welcoming especially Dr. Titus Ademi. We also have the bossa in our midst, Mr. Olukayode Oshinuga. The university librarian is also here with us. Distinguished members of the university community, it is my honor to introduce to you Professor Abayomi Owolabi. Distinguished members of the university community, we have a professor of public administration here with us. He was one time Chief Research Officer, Policy Analyst and Speechwriter at the State House, Abuja. In 2018, he was honored with the Thabo Mbeki Award for Public Service and Scholarship at the University of Texas at Austin, United States of America. An uncompromising advocate for public service reforms in Nigeria, he was Director of Programs at the Bureau of Public Service Reforms. Also, he was at one time the Special Assistant on Reforms to the Head of Service of Nigeria and Public Service Reforms. He is currently the Chairman, Federal Civil Service Commission, and founder, Ibadan School of Government and Public Policy. Distinguished members of the university community, guests, ladies and gentlemen, please just put your hands together for Professor Tunji Alaopa, the Chairman of the 33rd Convocation Lecture of our great university. Thank you very much. Also, I would like to specially introduce to us one of Africa's most decorated business leaders, a Nigerian businessman and former CEO of Access Bank, the founding chairman of Financial Market Dealers Quotation Securities Exchange, president of the France Nigeria Business Council, currently the chairman SEC Identity Management Committee, chairman Financial Market Dealers Association, Board of Trustees, former president of the Nigerian Stock Exchange Council, and member of the Special Advisory Group to the World Trade Organization. He was African Banker of the Year in 2013, and in 2015, he was 2025, I beg your pardon, he was listed as 100 most influential Africans. Distinguished members of the university community, guests, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a resounding applause to Mr. Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede, Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic, the Chairman, Access Holdings Plc. He is our university's 33rd Convocation Lecturer. Please let's put our hands together for him once again. Thank you, sir. Right now, it is now time to listen to the words of our Vice-Chancellor as I respectfully invite him to give the welcome address. Please join me in welcoming especially our own Vice-Chancellor, Professor Olusola Babatunde Kehinde. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. The President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, ably represented here by the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, Dr. Marcus Ogunbiyi, FNSC. You're welcome, sir. The Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of the Governing Council of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, His Royal Majesty, Oba Rashid Ayotunde Oladomi Odundo I, the Aigboje of Aig land, the Chairman of today's occasion, who happens to be the chairman of the Federal Civil Service Commission, Professor Tunji Olaopa. And of course, the one who has decided to honor us today, and for which we are very happy, the 33rd Convocation Lecturer of our university, Barrister Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede. You are welcome, sir, CFR. Please permit me to also appreciate and welcome the former leaders of this university, those who sweated for this university to move from one point to the other. And let me start from recognizing the fourth substantive Vice-Chancellor of our university, Professor Oluwafemi Olaiyabalogun. You are welcome, sir. Also seated beside him is the sixth substantive Vice-Chancellor of our university, the man from whom I took the baton, Professor Felix Kolawole Salako. You're welcome. You're welcome, sir. I also welcome distinguished members of the University Governing Council, both external members, government appointees, and internal members. I welcome you all. Distinguished deans and directors, distinguished members of the University Senate, I welcome you all. Today is not a day for me to make long speech, but today is a day in we're celebrating excellence. We're celebrating the 33rd convocation ceremony of our university, which started last Friday with a Jumat service. We went to church on Sunday for Thanksgiving service. Day before yesterday, Wednesday, we had the press conference. And today, we have had the commissioning of projects in this university. And at this time, we want to listen to the Convocation Lecture. The Convocation Lecture is a time in which the members of the university community are challenged, in which we invite someone from outside, someone we believe has the experience, the exposure, the knowledge, and the wherewithal to really challenge us and the public in general to what universities should be. And for this occasion, we have chosen a theme, and we believe that our convocation lecturer, a man of intelligence, a man of means, a distinguished Nigerian, will do justice to that. We also want to appreciate the chairman of today's occasion, who agreed to come all the way from Abuja. We're a federal institution, and because of that, we're happy that the chairman of the Federal Civil Service Commission has agreed to be here. And this promises to be an occasion where we will all learn, we will all gain from whatever will be said here. It's going to be a no-holds-barred session. And I want to assure each and every one of us that we are here on behalf of this university to learn more, to gain more, and to know more. And therefore, considering that we don't want to waste time, I want to specially welcome each and every one of us, including every member of the university community. I can see, let me please specially welcome the former acting Vice-Chancellor of the Federal University of Technology, Akure, the former rector of the Federal Polytechnic, Ile-Oluji, Professor Dayo Fashakin. Professor Fashakin, please, I want to ask that you please come forward, please. Come and sit in front. Professor Dayo Fashakin, X this, X that. You are welcome, sir. Thank you very much. Of course, I also want to welcome Professor S.O. Otubushi. Professor Otubushi, you are welcome. The man who has served this university. Therefore, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure once again to welcome each and every one of us to today's occasion. Thank you so very much. God bless you.
Please let's sustain our applause for the Vice-Chancellor, please. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Today is not for much speeches, but right now, let me quickly invite specially the Convocation 33rd Convocation Lecture Chairman, Professor Tunji Olaopa, to please give the chairman's opening remarks. Please, let's put our hands together for him, please. Thank you very much, sir. You're welcome, sir.
The Honorable Minister of Agriculture, ably represented by the Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Agric, Dr. Marcus Aigboje, the Pro-Chancellor of the Government Council, His Royal Majesty, Obarashid, Abeokuta, Olubumi, the Right General, members of the Government Council, the Vice-Chancellor, the Convocation Lecturer, the indefatigable Mr. Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede, my big brother, Professor Femi Balogun, the pioneer Vice-Chancellor of this great university. Eh? Oh, the fourth. Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. The fourth. Okay. Okay. Members of Senate, colleagues, academics, professors, deans and head of departments, all other items of protocol duly observed. I must remark that if I've been warned that Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede was going to deliver this convocation lecture, maybe I would not have invested so much energy into what I've prepared. But so as not to commit what would be a sin, I will skip through a few because I don't want to have a mini convocation lecture before one. I think it's a measure of seriousness that the management of the university has given to the consideration of the topic given, that they have invited such a distinguished Nigerian as a convocation lecturer. I am immensely honored to be given this role to chair the 2026 convocation lecture of this arguably celebrated specialized university. A university with a unique defining purpose for the future of Nigeria's possibilities. I must also remark that I found the deep thought that went into the choice of the topic of this year's convocation lecture instructive. Indeed, in the pursuit of the vision of setting Nigeria's development objectives and thrust within an overarching goal to diversify the national economy, consecutive governments in Nigeria established universities of agriculture, starting with the Federal University of Agriculture Abeokuta and Makurdi in 1998, followed in 1992 by Mike Opara University in Omodike, and then the Federal University of Agri-Zoo-Kebe in 2020, and now the Federal University of Agric and Technology, Okeo, in Oyo State. The concern of the founding fathers in floating these specialized universities was rooted in the recognition that since crude oil was discovered in Nigeria in 1962, agriculture has increasingly lagged behind. And it is this concern that still lingers in all our minds as we reflect on the cogent implication of the paradigm shift in farming and its value chain towards a youth-friendly approaches and products. These interconnected concerns raise critical questions. How far has the vision of the founding fathers been achieved since the series of the University of Agric and Culture were floated? In other words, to what extent has the nation put to use the capabilities of the universities in terms of their theoretical, conceptual, practical, and policy orientation and engagement in the concerted drive to fix the national economy? But there is a bigger, larger overarching concern about the future of the university that I'd like to raise in our address. What constitutes the essence of education and the university system? We immediately notice how fundamental this question is when we give attention to Nigeria's dismal youth unemployment statistics. In other words, is the university system doing what we expect it to do for the Nigerian youths? They are not only unemployable, they are also to be found in the worst of crimes and counter-cultural tendencies and activities. We are then forced to ask two questions. What future are we preparing for the youth? How are we preparing them for that future? Answering these questions demands that we make the compelling case for a paradigm shift that we are proposing in this lecture, not demanding an imperative that we might be hoping for when we frame the topic of this lecture. That shift must encompass what we consider to be the content and consequence of education and how university systems facilitate their aspiration. Permit me to quote Wendell Berry. The thing being made in the university is humanity. What universities are mandated to make or help to make is human beings in the fullest sense of those words. Not just trained workers or knowledgeable citizens, but responsible heirs and members of human culture. Underlying the idea of a university, the bringing together, the combining into one of all disciplines, is the idea that good work and good citizenship are the inevitable byproduct of the making of a good, that is, a fully developed human being. The first and most significant essence of education is to enable us to become fully human, to reconnect back to our collective humanity, and more importantly, the imperative of learning to learn. When we learn, we do not only do it towards the end of acquisition of skills and competencies or certificates and degrees, but also towards learning to live and relate together. This is the most cogent ethical component of learning that the university system must take note of. We see all around us the terrible implications of being divided by religion, ethnicity, status, and gender. We also learn in order to be able to anticipate circumstances, challenges, and limitations that life and environment might throw the individual or the state into. The challenge, therefore, is to reform the reform of the university system by achieving a strategic balance between the need for manpower plan development and the character development, plus ethical relations and others. In terms of change management, the challenge demands that we connect between the significance of STEM education and the necessity for humanities and the social sciences. This leads us to the second question that I posed earlier, and which relates to the motto of FUNAAB, Knowledge for Development, about how to strategically prepare the youth for the humane future, where all hands will be on deck for good citizenship and development. Here I engage with the second dimension of the paradigm shift embedded in the title of this year's Convocation Lecture. 4 issues come into focus here that could condition the effectiveness of the paradigm shift that we're looking at. One, to what extent in terms of modern technology, like artificial intelligence, robotics, cybernetics, drones, GIS, Internet of Things, have the universities of agriculture and the legion of research institutes gone in integrating this cutting-edge development to articulate, for instance, smart farming systems and creative agri business methods. Two, to what extent, with regards to sustainability concerns, have the university successfully deployed research and sustainable practices to promote environmental friendly practices? Three, how effective have universities become regarding research and development in creating innovation hubs for disseminating solutions of agricultural challenges that farmers and the key players in the sector face in time and space? Number four, and the last, concerning the framework for rural and national economic diversification, what roles have the university been playing in identifying community and rural focus concerns and offering practical solutions and the impact in deepening backward integration? I will leave the bit that has to do with the federal government national agricultural technology and innovation, NATIB good practice, for the permanent secretary to dwell on, if at all. I will then move to my conclusion in terms of taking the university system in Nigeria to the next level. Moving forward, our first concern is the need to deepen university autonomy in ways that not only shield it from political contestation, but also allows it to generate initiative arising from its constitutional mandate. Number two, governance imperative that follows immediately is the need to drive the university towards sustainable financing that connects it with national financing model that grants the university autonomy through government councils to deal with its own issues and objectives independently. The issue of funding also connects with the need to articulate a university industry model beyond private public partnership programs that fuse with research and development framework for pushing development projects and development. This is even more cogent for specialized universities like FUNAAB that have the government breathing down their neck to facilitate core economic development and policies and projects. And lastly, the recurring issue of industrial relations and ASU phenomenon demands that a more developmental approach is needed to counter the adversarial trade disputes that have more often than not undermined the Nigerian tertiary institution and the ability to capitalize on human capital development for progress. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say that we have put our finger on an exceedingly profound topic that ordinarily we cannot explore in 1 or 2 hours, but it's something that the university FUNAAB has used to set the tone for conversation concerning the future of the Federal University of Agric in Nigeria. And I hope there will be follow-up seminar and research dimension to deepen all this. I'd like to congratulate the management, the Vice-Chancellor and all, and to say thank you for this opportunity and God bless.
Thank you very much. Please let's keep on applauding Professor Tuji Alapa, the chairman of the 33rd Convocation Lecture of this great standalone lady. We can expect less. Professor Tuji Alapa is one of the champions of public service reforms in Nigeria, and that is not a lecture. The lecture is about to start now. Please let's put our hands together for him once again. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you, sir. On this note, it's my honor to invite specially to the microphone the University Orator, the former Deputy Vice-Chancellor Academy, Professor Christian Ikebe. Please let's put our hands together for him as he approaches the microphone. Thank you, sir.
Chairman, sir, may I humbly request request the Convocation Lecturer, Barrister Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede, to please stand and remain standing. Thank you, sir. Chairman, sir, this is a brief citation on the Convocation Lecturer, Barrister Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede. Barrister Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede was born on September 24, 1966 in Ibadan to the family of Mr. Frank Aig-Imoukhuede and Mrs. Emily Aig-Imoukhuede. His father, a distinguished journalist and poet, known for his poems such as Pigeon Stew and Stop Ahead, served at various times as Secretary of the National Council of Arts and Culture and as Federal Director of Culture. His mother, Mrs. Emily Aig-Imoukhuede, was the curator of the National Museum, author and pastor, widely celebrated for her commitment to and advocacy for women's welfare, charity and arts, and served at a time as the president of the National Council of Women's Societies. In 1993, she was appointed Secretary of State, that is Federal Minister for States and Local Government. It was in such a remarkable and enviable family setting that young Aigboje grew up, knowing that he has to keep the faith and maintain the family legacy of unyielding commitment to industry and pursuit of excellence and distinction in life and career. Armed with this first-class pedigree, Barrister Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede, CFR, rose to become a leading figure in African business, known as a visionary, banker, investor, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and economic reformer whose influence extends across sectors and borders. Through an expansive portfolio that includes Access Holdings Plc, Cordially Group, and the Nigerian Family Office, Barrister Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede leads a multi-billion-dollar enterprise committed to building African business capacity and competitiveness in banking, capital markets, insurance, technology, energy, and real estate. As chairman of both Coronation Group Limited, Nigeria's first licensed capital markets holding company, and Access Holdings Plc, he continues to shape the future of African finance, leveraging his track record in transforming Access Bank from a relatively minor player into one of Nigeria's top financial institutions. His legacy at Access includes expanding the bank's footprint across 10 countries, growing its customer base from 10,000 to well over 6.5 million, and increasing its asset base to 12 billion US dollars. In addition to his commercial endeavors, Barrister Aig Aig-Imoukhuede is deeply invested in creating an enabling environment for African enterprise. He is the chairman of Enterprise NGR, Nigeria's premier advocacy group for financial and professional services, which works to strengthen Nigeria's role as a leading global services hub. His leadership extends into national and international financial architecture, including founding chairman of Financial Markets Dealers Quotation Securities Exchange 2013 to 2014, former president of the Nigerian Stock Exchange Council, where he led the successful demutualization of the exchange from 2014 to 2017, serving currently as the chairman of the Financial Market Dealers Association Board of Trustees, and also as the chairman SEC Identity Management Committee. He's also serving as the co-chairman of the Lagos International Financial Center Council, supporting Nigeria's ambition to become a top-tier global financial center. Barrister Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede is also the president of France-Nigeria Business Council, empowering bilateral trade and economic cooperation. He is a council member of the African Financial Industry Summit and also a member of the Special Advisory Group to the World Trade Organization, WTO. A recognized leader in financial market reform, Barrister Aig-Imoukhuede is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, and a member of the Nigerian Bar Association, underscoring his multidisciplinary contributions to business and law. His visionary ideas are captured in his memoir, Leaving the Tarmac, Buying a Bank in Africa, a definitive account of entrepreneurial tenacity and systemic transformation. Through platforms such as the Nigeria United Kingdom Capital Markets Project and various advisory boards, including the Babatunde School of Government at Oxford University, Barrister Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede continues to advance conversations around sustainable finance, ethical leadership, public sector reforms, and economic inclusion. In parallel with his business and policy leadership, Barrister Aig-Imoukhuede serves as chairman of the Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation, a strategic philanthropic organization committed to transforming public sector effectiveness in Africa. Through initiatives such as the African Initiative for Governance, AIG, the Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation invests in leadership development, government capacity building, and health system reforms. With a $100 million family commitment, the foundation exemplifies his belief that sustainable national transformation must be driven by both private sector innovation and public sector excellence. As one of Africa's most decorated business leaders, Barrister Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede has been recognized with numerous accolades, including Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic, CFR, Nigeria's third highest national honor, 2023, African Banker of the Year by African Banker Magazine, 2013. Ernst & Young West African Entrepreneur of the Year, 2011. Induction into the African Academy of Arts and Sciences, 2017. And listing as one of the 100 most influential Africans in 2025. Barrister Aig-Imoukhuede holds a Bachelor of Laws degree from the University of Benin City, and was called to the Nigerian bar in 1987. His pursuit of excellence in leadership and finance led him to complete an executive MBA jointly awarded by the London School of Economics, NYU Stern School of Business, and HEC Paris in 2015. He continues to receive honorary degrees and qualifications from leading global institutions, reflecting his lifelong commitment to learning and his standing as a thought leader in African business. Beyond the boardroom, Barrister Aig-Imoukhuede is a devoted husband and father. He is married to Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede, a respected development specialist and co-founder of the Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation. Together, they are raising their children with a shared commitment to faith, service, and legacy. A man guided by purpose and principle, he also serves as a minister of the Promised Land Ministries, embodying values of humility, stewardship, and service to others. Through his leadership, Africa gains more than economic growth. It gains a model of business integrity, market development, and Pan-African possibility. Mr. Chairman, sir, Barrister Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede, with his eminent contributions over the years in building one of the leading banking institutions, not only in Nigeria but also in Africa, and with his immense services to Nigeria and Africa as a whole, he is therefore eminently qualified to deliver the Convocation Lecturer for the 33rd Convocation Ceremony of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, under the theme Integrating Agriculture and Youth Development, a New Paradigm for Nigerian Education System. And it's my pleasure to humbly invite Barrister Aig-Imoukhuede to deliver the Convocation Lecture. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. That is the most marvelous introduction I've ever received. I want to thank the University Orator for such an excellent job. The chairman of the occasion, my co-reformer, Professor Tunji Olapa, the Pro-Chancellor, His Royal Majesty, Oba Rashid Labumi, the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Omishola Kehinde, and the representative of Mr. President, another co-reformer, brother, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, Dr. Marcus Okumbi, members of the Governing Council and Senate, members of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, which I will refer to as FUNAAB, academic community, both current and of course our emeritus professors of the past, proud parents and guardians, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, and most importantly, of course, the graduating class of 2026. I'm deeply honored to stand before you today, honored by your invitation, honored by the occasion, and honored by the responsibility that comes with addressing a gathering such as this. Convocation is a moment of joy, but it's also a moment of gravity, because it is the moment when achievement meets expectation, when celebration meets responsibility, and when the university that is convocating must pause and ask itself, quietly but seriously, why do we exist? And of course, when graduates, eager as they may be to go out into the world, will perhaps, for the first time, ask an even harder question. What is now expected of me? And so, as we begin the Convocation Lecture on the occasion of the 33rd Federal University of Agriculture Abeokuta Convocation, I recognize that we must praise the efforts of those who graduate. We must praise the work of those who taught them. And we must praise the parents who birthed them and who have made it possible for them to pass through the experiences of graduation. But this afternoon, I will go beyond praise, and I will attempt to help us interpret the world into which these graduates are stepping. It should also help us see more clearly the forces that are shaping that world. And it should also challenge those who are graduating today to recognize that they are not merely entering history, they are being invited to shape it. So within the context of the theme for this year's convocation, I decided to narrow down our focus. And I have titled the lecture, Agriculture, the Future of Work, and the University as a Catalyst. I repeat, Agriculture, the Future of Work, and the University as a Catalyst. It is in that spirit that I ask you to reflect with me on a simple but far-reaching proposition. Agriculture is Africa's most scalable answer to the future of work, of jobs, and of employment. And that universities are the engine that must power this transition. This is not a sentimental proposition that I make. It is not a nostalgic appeal to the past, however romantic and powerful that reality is, inspired by granite pyramids and cocoa houses. It is an economic argument, a social argument, and above all, an institutional argument. It is grounded in evidence, but animated in belief. Belief in what Nigeria and Africa can become when vision is matched with discipline, when talent is matched with systems, and when leadership is matched with responsibility. I stand before you today, but I do not do so as an agriculturist, either by training or by practice. I come to this subject certainly not from the furrows of the field or my farm, but from the long corridors of institutions, financial institutions, public institutions, and philanthropic institutions. Much of my professional life has been thinking about systems and making those systems work. That's what I do. Some work and some fail. Some societies manage again and again to convert potential into productivity, while others struggle despite equal or even greater endowments. And in Africa, over the last 100 years, we have had more struggling with that potential than fulfilling that potential. And so, it gives us even more impetus to study the system paradox and for once be able to solve it for the benefit of Nigeria and Africa. And in all these spaces, banking, investment, public sector reform, philanthropy, one truth has always confronted me. Societies never transform themselves. I repeat, societies never transform themselves. We can line up in front of any point of confrontation and speak truth to power. That is not what is going to transform us. Systems transform societies. Where systems are strong, average talent can produce extraordinary outcomes. You have heard them speak about Access Bank. I described my mission and indeed our mission at Access Bank in 2002 when we embarked on our quest to turn that little institution into what it is now. I said, what we are seeking to do is to create a system where ordinary people like me and like the 200 or 300 that we were then in 2002 will deliver extraordinary things. And so where our systems were weak in 2002 and our exceptional talent was constrained, not to talk of ordinary talent, we worked on our systems. And we made our systems match the systems you would find in banks anywhere in the world. And the result is there for all to see. It is from this vantage point, the vantage point of building institutions based on outstanding systems, that I approach the subject of agriculture and the future of work. So our first question today is a global question. What is the future of work? It's a global question. Across the world today, the phrase the future of work has become a shorthand for disruption. Automation is rewriting job descriptions. Artificial intelligence is reshaping decision making. Across the world, the argument and the mantra was, AI will not replace jobs. This was to make us not comfortable, but less uncomfortable with the reality of what we would face. What we are being told today is that, yes, AI is replacing jobs, but be the replacer, not the replaced. Climate change is redefining risk. Demography is altering labor markets. And geopolitics is fragmenting supply chains that once seemed permanent. In many advanced economies, the dominant fear, take note, advanced economies. The dominant fear is displacement. Machines replacing people, trained people replacing the untrained. In Africa, the challenge is more fundamental, more urgent, and more unforgiving. How do we create work, productive, dignified, sustainable work at scale? Our levels of unemployment are at levels that the advanced societies cannot contemplate, nor can they actually survive on. I do not believe that most advanced societies can operate, I'm not talking of in economic terms, I do not believe that they can deal with the social realities that we deal with in Africa at our levels of unemployment. With this fear comes many things, and you don't need to look further than the United States at the quite radical social change and political change that we are witnessing. When I completed this address, the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, had not yet held. And so, what I say now is not in my address. It happened after I completed this address, but I must comment on it. Since I completed this address, the leader of Canada, Prime Minister Carney, spoke at Davos of what he described as Canada's path. He stressed the end of the international rules-based order and spoke of a new world order. I never thought that in my life I would actually be around when a new world order would be described. The last time that these words were spoken of a new world order was between 1939 and 1950. And we know what took place during that period. A world war and so many other changes. In that context was the first time that man dropped an atomic weapon on his fellow man. So when you hear terms like a new world order, understand that. Anyway. Now, what is more important to me in the context of this lecture, and when we talk about the future of work, is that he described Canada, the 10th largest nation in the world by GDP, as a middle country. And that he calls on his people not to fear what is happening, but to get themselves and be prepared for Canada's path in this new world order. He was reassuring his people that the realities that we face today, the uncertainties that we face today, the volatility, the complexity, the ambiguity that we face today, we in Canada are going to pass through it by repositioning ourselves in this new world order. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Canada's GDP annual is $2.2 trillion. Africa's GDP is $2.7 trillion divided by 54 nations. So if Canada, that we run to as Nigerians, as a safe haven, the Prime Minister says get ready for a new roller coaster, then you begin to understand the conundrum that we face in Africa and in Nigeria when we ask ourselves the future of work. It is not a theoretical question. It's not a minor question. It is a major life-defining question that graduates and their parents, and indeed the universities that host them, must begin to address. Africa is the poorest continent on earth. Nigeria is its most populous nation, and we sit squarely at the center of this reality. Every single year, millions of young Nigerians enter the labor market with hope in their hearts, education in their hands, and expectations shaped by a connected world. Yet too often, the economy they encounter cannot absorb them productively. This is not merely an employment challenge. It is a developmental challenge. It is a national stability and security challenge. But ultimately, it is a moral challenge, particularly to those of us who came at a time when the world was not like it, and it was much easier for us. Early in my own career, I learned something that never left me. Work is about far more than income. Work is about dignity. It is about identity. It is about the quiet confidence that comes from knowing that one's efforts matters, that it contributes something larger than oneself. At the time I left university in 1986, unemployment in Nigeria, graduate unemployment in Nigeria was almost non-existent. So when you didn't have a job after 2 years or 3 years, the circumstances indeed must. You can go and look into it. Is either personal or spiritual? But you see, what we take for granted therefore was that the dignity of work, the ability to say I am who I am, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are engaged in something that matters to the world or to somebody, it made me who I am. I'm not too sure where necessary I may be if I was coming into that labor market today. Where work is scarce, where work is unavailable, life becomes very precarious. The mind and the mental condition of the man or the woman needs special attention. Frustration does not begin with poverty alone. It begins with the absence of productive purpose. That is why the future of work is not an abstract policy debate. It is a deeply human one. And it is here that agriculture enters the conversation, not as an afterthought, but as a central pillar. So, the next statement I will make: agriculture from misunderstood sector to strategic platform. For far too long, despite the obvious reality of how many African nations were birthed in the 60s, agriculture has carried an unfair burden of perception. It has been framed as a sector of last resort, when in the 60s, it was a sector that paid the school fees of our most prominent citizens. It has been framed as something to be escaped, as the opposite of progress. This narrative is outdated, silly, and it is profoundly misleading. Agriculture is not simply about farming. It is about systems of value creation. It begins with science, seed genetics, soil chemistry, climate data. It extends through to engineering, irrigation, mechanization, and storage. It flows into logistics, processing, packaging, branding. It reaches into finance, insurance, standards, regulation, and trade. Ultimately, it connects local production to global wealth creation. And this system possesses one defining characteristic that no other economic sector in Nigeria can match. Given our population realities, which is scale, in other words, the opportunity matches the number of people seeking opportunity. No other sector offers the same capacity to create jobs across skill levels, across income bands, across rural and urban geographies, while simultaneously strengthening our food security, reducing imports, and building national resilience. Properly understood, agriculture is not something we should look at as a relic or the thing of the past. It is actually Nigeria and Africa's platform for the future of work. And so, the third subtitle in this lecture is From Joseph, you will find out who Joseph is, to Brazil to Nigeria, when agriculture becomes serious business, serious national strategy. The story of Joseph in the Bible and his story as sojourn in Egypt is often remembered as a story about dreams fulfilled, favor restored, or destiny revealed. But beneath the familiar narrative lies something more practical and more profound. Pharaoh's dream that Joseph interpreted was entirely agricultural. Cows, grain, season, abundance, and scarcity. What distinguished Joseph was not simply that he interpreted a dream, it was what he did next. Joseph understood that insight without execution means nothing. So interpreting dreams is an entertainment. He moved from revelation to institution. He recognized that agriculture was not about one good harvest or even one good year. It was about cycles and about preparing deliberately for those cycles. Joseph proposed a system that obviously did not exist before that. And he said, today we may think it's obvious because we have learnt about it. But the funny thing is that even if I think about the system of saving for a rainy day that distinguishes great nations and poor nations, if we might up to now, we can't put that system in place. But we'll get there. So Joseph proposed a system that during years of abundance, Egypt should not consume everything it produced. That surplus should be collected, stored, preserved, and governed. That agriculture should be organized, coordinated, and planned. And in that moment in Egypt, agriculture stopped being routine. It became strategic. Farming became food security. Harvest became national resilience. Grain became economic power. And when famine came, as Joseph said it would, Egypt did not collapse. Egypt supplied. Nations came not for gold or weapons, but their food was more than any nuclear weapon. Joseph's insight was timeless. When agriculture is treated as a system, it becomes a platform for employment, a platform for trade, a platform for stability, and a platform for influence. So let us now look at nations that have learned from this. In the 1960s and the 1970s, Brazil faced a serious agricultural dilemma. Vast portions of its land were considered agriculturally useless. The soil was acidic, the climate unpredictable, yields were poor. Experts dismissed the land as unsuitable for large-scale farming. Agriculture was not seen as Brazil's future. It was seen as a limitation. But Brazil made a strategic choice, just as Egypt under Pharaoh did, based on Joseph's vision and advice. Rather than abandon agriculture, Brazil reimagined agriculture. The country invested deliberately in agricultural science, research institutions, soil chemistry, like FUNAAB, several great universities of agriculture, logistics, and long-term policy consistency. Scientists were not asked merely to improve crops. They were asked to redesign entire production systems. Over time, soil that was thought to be infertile became productive. Infrastructure linked farm to ports. Farmers were connected to finance, technology, and global markets. Agriculture was no longer seasonal, it was systemic. And the results were and are extraordinary. Brazil became one of the world's leading exporters of soybeans, leading exporters of beef, leading exporters of poultry, leading exporters of sugar, leading exporters of ethanol. When I say lead, I'm saying 1, 2, 3 in one. Agriculture evolved into a sophisticated value chain, supporting manufacturing, logistics, research, finance, and most importantly, millions of jobs. High-value jobs. Jobs that gave people pride in who they were as global citizens. Nigeria, like Egypt then and Brazil later, is not short of promise. We are rich in land, rich in labor, rich in demand, and rich in talent. What we have lacked too often is completion. Over the past 2 decades, Nigeria has repeatedly glimpsed what is possible when agriculture is treated as strategy rather than as subsistence. We have seen moments when coordinated action linked farmers to inputs, finance, extension services, and off-takers. In those moments, yields improved, imports declined, rural incomes rose. But we have also seen reforms stall. I just was told most recently that a number of farmers in the northwestern part of our country that have been growing rice and growing rice and growing, I just won't mention the state. And lo and behold, last year, state governments now return to importing rice. And I asked the question, what of one man who actually left
the legislative function. That National Assembly that people think, he left it and said, I'm going home to become a farmer. And for 3 or 4 years consistently would contact me and tell me how great Nigeria was and he was traveling from here to this place and that place, getting new technology, and I just imagine what his state will be now. I'm saying him as an individual. Having committed himself to rice production and succeeding in it, and maybe for 5 years, we held it true in Nigeria, but we cannot hold. Why? So we have seen reforms stalled, programs fail, momentum lost, because systems were not allowed to mature beyond personalities or political cycles. Nigeria's agricultural story is not one of failure, it is one of unfinished architecture. We have tried agriculture as a sequence of interventions rather than a strategic infrastructure that should be pursued on a multi-generational basis. Yet we've seen it in Brazil, where value chains are organized, production responds, where storage and processing improve, waste falls, and jobs emerge beyond the farm gate. When finance follows structure, capital shows up. Nigeria does not lack answers. Nigeria must now shift from experimenting constantly to enduring systematically. From agriculture as a policy to agriculture as our business, our calling card as a nation. I say this with personal humility. Over the years, and I expressed to at least 2 personalities, distinguished personalities on this side of the room, I said they are co-reformers. I have learned that the hardest work in nation building is not starting reform, it's staying with reform. It is continuing to build when progress becomes slow, contested, and unglamorous. In my own experience, the difference between the promise of something and the reality of progress is not brilliance. When you see these people who achieve, and you say this is a great reformer, this person changed their country, it's always about endurance. The ability to hold true and see it through to the end. Nigeria's agricultural future will not be secured by one announcement or just one generation, but by people willing to stay long enough to finish what others began. And it is precisely because this work requires endurance rather than excitement that the role of the university and of the graduate reforms becomes decisive. So, the 4th area of discussion. The university as engine, not spectator. An agricultural university cannot be content with transmitting knowledge alone. It must act as a catalyst for national problem solving. Universities must break silos, align research with reality, convince stakeholders, and shape character. In my own life, integrity was not taught in a university class. It was observed. Values were observed quietly, but they proved decisive later. Universities do not only prepare graduates for work. I think very importantly, they prepare graduates for judgment. To be able to know when to say yes and when to say no. The judgment to choose long term over short term. Service over self. Institution building over self-applause. Institutions like FUNAAB are uniquely positioned to anchor Nigeria's agricultural transformation. Our paradox as a nation, abundance without productivity. Nigeria is richly endowed. We possess vast arable land across diverse agro-ecological zones. We command one of the largest domestic food markets on the continent. 250 million people eating every day is nice. We sit close to regional export destinations. We have a population that guarantees demand not for years but for generations. Yet, Nigeria remains a net importer of food, spending billions of dollars annually on staples that can be produced productively and competitively at home. This paradox teaches us something vital. Our agricultural challenge is not about effort, it's not about aspiration. It's about systems. Over the years, I can read a balance sheet in my sleep. I have sat with public officials wrestling with national constraints, and a pattern repeats itself with remarkable consistency. Nigeria does not lack opportunity. Nigeria lacks coordination. I don't want to even use the term leadership because we always say leadership. What is this leader meant to do that they are not doing? It's to coordinate us. And it's the coordination that leads to a system. We vote charisma. We vote ethnic jingoism. We vote our religious leanings. We don't vote coordination, organization. But that's what we need most. And since we lack coordination, our systems, whatever systems exist, are fragmented. And with fragmentation, all that value and potential just leaks away, just wasted. Through inefficiency, waste, and misskill. And our agricultural sector exposes this reality more starkly than any other sector. I would wish we commission a research. And let's actually determine and understand how much of the agri potential is wasted on an annual basis. I am sure it runs into tens of billions of dollars. Annually. Lessons from Nigeria's experience. Over the past decade, Nigeria has experimented, sometimes imperfectly, but importantly, with coordinated agricultural interventions. Farmers were linked to finance, quality inputs were brought in, extension support, and reliable offtake. Outcomes have improved sometimes. Production has increased sometimes. Imports have risen. Income has risen sometimes. And imports have declined sometimes. Why can it not be for all time? The lesson here is not about any single program. No reform is ever perfect at first attempt. It's not about perfection. It's about learning and coordination. It's not about speed. It's about persistence. It's not about novelty. It's about remembering what not to do. That lack of memory, institutional memory, is why we keep going back. We do something that was awful. And then you wonder, in 5 years' time, we go back and do that same thing that was awful. And you ask yourself, why? Again, a lack of system. Agricultural transformation, like financial reform, is not a sprint. It's a discipline. So beyond the farm gate, that's where the jobs are. But our lack of systems is causing us to end our focus when agriculture is concerned at the farm gate. One of Nigeria's greatest missed opportunities lies beyond the farm gate. Our post-harvest losses remain unacceptably high, not because our farmers are not good, not because they are not smart, but because the systems that are meant to support them and make them productive are weak. Storage is inadequate, cold chains are fragmented, processing capacity is uneven, there is no power, quality standards are inconsistently enforced. Every one of these gaps, each of these things that I've mentioned, represents a constraint, a ceiling on jobs that can be created. Jobs for technicians, jobs for scientists, jobs for logisticians, jobs for quality assurance professionals, jobs for export processors, jobs even for brand builders. For many of our graduates today, the future of agricultural work will not begin on the farm.
It will begin after the farm gate if we get our systems right. Technology and the reinvention of agricultural work. The agriculture of the future will not look like the agriculture of the past. Technology is already reshaping agricultural work even in Nigeria. Data now informs planting decisions. Climate smart practices reduces vulnerability. Biotechnology enhances resilience. Digital platforms connect producers to markets. Financial technology expands access to credit and insurance. In Kenya, working with a partner, Access has recently launched a program for farmers. And I just asked, when I say recently, I'm over the last, I think, for 5 years. And I asked how many farmers are using it now? 9,000. How many farmers are targeted to use it by the end of this year? 150,000. Financing on their mobile phone. So a time will come when perhaps 500,000, 1 million farmers are enjoying credit from Access Bank in Kenya. When will we start that in Nigeria? The reason why in Kenya we can do it is that systems exist. Systems for collection, systems that protect the farmer, systems that establish price, and so on. Financial technology expands access to credit and insurance. So also embedded in that, and they told you about our insurance business, is an insurance business that is insuring the product and reducing the risk. And so you begin to see how agriculture is a really great business when there are systems to support it. Young Nigerians are building enterprises that apply analytics software and platforms to age-old problems. But you see, I've lived through several waves of technological enthusiasm. I have learned to distinguish between innovation that excites, headlines, and so on, and innovation that endures. Technology is powerful, but it's not magic. Without human capability, it remains underutilized. And without systems, the greatest technology reminds me about Note 9 Note mobile phone. You remember it? Oh, many of our students will not. There was something called a mobile phone, and the system was not the GSM system that we know. And despite all our best efforts, with the same amounts of billions of dollars mobilized, after 3 or 4 years, we had in Nigeria, I think, a total of 100,000 users. But the GSM system, with the right regulatory system, we today have almost 200 million users. Same mobile technology, just a different system. So systems matter more than ideas. Nigeria certainly does not suffer from a shortage of ideas. It is that our systems do not endure. Agriculture remains underfinanced, not because capital is absent, but because structure is weak. Finance hesitates where land tenure is unclear, value chains are fragmented, and governance is unpredictable. Transformation requires 3 pillars. Capital, that is, we need patient, long-term capital that understands cycles and risk. Institutions, credible bodies that translate policy into outcomes. Governance, consistency, transparency, and accountability. No country, and I repeat, no country has transformed its agricultural sector without deliberate institution building. And institutions, as I've learned the hard way, take far longer to build than to dismantle. I have a message to the graduating class as I begin to wind up. Graduates of the 2025 academic session, today is about them and any of you in this room today. You are entering a world that will demand adaptability, resilience, and courage. Linear careers where you could predict where you will be in 20 years are fading. So lifelong learning is now compulsory. When I graduated, as I told you many years ago, even then I could not predict the path ahead.
it's even more difficult today. But I had a willingness to learn, to adapt, and to take responsibility rather than comfort when necessary. You will not always feel ready. I think readiness is overrated. You don't have to be ready. What matters is that you have to be committed, and whatever you meet on, you will overcome it. Don't forget that you have to remain engaged. Nigeria does not need spectators. Nigeria's need is for builders and farmers. Leadership, as I've come to understand it, is not about authority. It is about stewardship. That's why I'm here today. It is the willingness to hold something in trust for people you may never meet. And I believe that all of us here, who are parents, who are teachers, who are blessed in whatever way, that makes us have something that will help others as stewards of that thing. And the measurement of how we use those talents will define our purpose after we leave this earth. Agriculture demands this kind of leadership, and building Nigeria demands it too. Let me end where I began, with optimism. I remain optimistic about Nigeria, not because our challenges are small, because our capacity to solve them is often underestimated. I have seen what Nigerians can build when systems align and leadership persists. That is when ordinary people do extraordinary things. Agriculture offers probably the clearest path to shared prosperity for this nation. Universities like FUNAAB are the engine rooms of that future. And you, the graduating class of 2025, are not stepping into history. You are being invited to shape Nigeria's history. May you leave this university not only with degrees, but with purpose. Not only with ambition, but with responsibility. And not only with hope, but with courage to cultivate a future worthy of our nation's promise. Congratulations. May your work nourish generations to come. God bless us all.
Let's keep on with the applause, please. Can we all keep on with the applause? You all agree with me that it was a thought-provoking lecture that has inspired most of our graduates, distinguished members of the university community. Please, let's give a resounding applause to Barrister Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede, the 33rd Convocation Lecturer of this great citadel of learning. Thank you very much. Thank you. On the lecture, just briefly, Barrister Aig-Imoukhuede said he has been thinking about systems and how it works. He said some worked and some didn't. He also said societies never transform themselves. He said systems transforms societies. He also said artificial intelligence is replacing jobs. He has told our graduates, be the replacer and not the replaced. He also said the future of work and the new world order. Our 33rd Convocation Lecturer also said agriculture should not be viewed as a relic, but actually the future of work for Nigeria. He also said we must make agriculture a business in Nigeria, and not as a policy only. And the icing on the cake, our 33rd Convocation Lecturer posited that institutions like FUNAAB are uniquely positioned to anchor Nigeria's agricultural transformation. We believe that, sir, and that is why we are the best in Africa. And the last, our convocation lecturer said, Nigeria does not need spectators, but builders. Distinguished university committee members, please let's give a resounding applause to Barrister Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede, the 33rd Convocation Lecturer of this great university, the best university of agriculture in Africa, and the 7th best in the world. Thank you very much, sir. It is interesting to note, sir, that our university just got awarded as the best and the second most employable university in Nigeria. Please let's give a round of applause to our university. Thank you. On this note, it is now time to respectfully and humbly invite our Pro-Chancellor and the Chairman of the Governing Council, His Royal Majesty, Oba Rashid Ayotunde Alabomi, Odunde the 4th Asoludero, the 15th Aigboje of the Aigboje land, to please present gifts to the Convocation Lecturer. Thank you very much, sir. Can we put our hands together for our Pro-Chancellor as he approaches the microphone? Thank you, sir.
His Excellency, the representative of the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, the Chairman of this occasion, Professor Suji Olaupa, our guest lecturer, who has done very, very, very well. Honestly, I am meeting you physically for the first time in my life. But I must say, I'm falling in love with you. It is not the look. There's something behind the look. It's deep. It is only the deep that will cut to the deep. We thank you again and again. The lecture has been very, very well delivered. All T's are crossed, all I's are dotted. And I must say, between now and tomorrow, we must produce enough copies of the lecture for all our graduating students. Please management work on that. And we need to have a copy, a soft copy on our website for anybody who is interested. Aside from the fact that the contents may not be as well understood as the delivery, because it is your knowledge that you shared with us. In spite of that, we still have some of our students who are graduating who will have one or two things to learn from this very, very educative lecture. Thank you so much. And on this note, I want the Vice-Chancellor to join me here. We want to present gifts to the guest lecturer. we don't have money. We know we don't have money. You are a big man. We know we'll give you money. But like the disciples of Jesus Christ, they said, silver and gold we do not have. But this is what we have. This is a mark of appreciation. It is a tablet of appreciation. It is a demonstration of appreciation that we at the Federal University of Agriculture, we appreciate the fact that you're a very busy man. But out of your very, very tight schedule, you can. We didn't send somebody. Please go and deliver this to them. Or you come personally. And let me just, let cat out of bag. I have been conversing with him. And he's giving me green card. That something big will be coming to FUNAAB through him. On this note, I thank you. I want to present this to us and this gift to you. The Vice-Chancellor will support me because it's very heavy.
Another achievement, another achievement, another achievement, double achievement.
And somebody,
another achievement, another achievement, another achievement, double achievement. This is the way I desire to be. Oh.
thank you.
This is the way.
Great Nigerian students. See, at FUNAAB, we are practical. We are not theoretical. We combine both theory and practical. What we have here, please put it on this, put it up. We don't only teach and research. We have evidence of our research. In this basket, a lot of things are there. We have our honey. We have our palm wine. This one is tested okay. It has a duration of a lifespan of 1 year. Unlike the normal palm wine that you see on the road, this one is NAFDAC approved. All the things that are here are our products, made by us, and which members of the public attest to as a testament of a robust relationship between the town and the gown. We are presenting this to you.
An articulate A brilliant B, a
Finally,
C.
and finally, I want to give you the Vice-Chancellor's handshake.
Thank you very much. Please let's give a resounding applause to our Pro-Chancellor and Chairman, Governing Council, His Royal Majesty Oba Rashid Ayotunde Olabumi, to be the 4th Asolidoro, the 15th Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede. At this juncture, we are now drawing the curtains of the 33rd Convocation Lecture of this great citadel of learning. And it is my honor at this moment to specially and humbly invite the chairman of this occasion, Professor Tunji Alapa to give the closing remarks. Thank you very much, sir.
Honorable Minister, ably represented and the Vice-Chancellor, all protocols observed. Like I said when I was making my opening remark, I strangely didn't know the Convocation Lecture was going to be. But I've worked for a very long time with Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede as a person. And immediately I saw his name, I knew that we were going to have a treat. He's a man who not just embody corporate excellence, but has a unique kind of wisdom, that flows each time he does reflection. I made a lot of notes, a few notes. It's instructive that from him we are hearing that the new world order is happening in our own lifetime. As a political scientist, has deep statement to make. I also know that I saw the bit about the Levitical priesthood, and what I know is also he does this as a pastor in a church, so I could see a whole lot of a whole lot of theology and reflection on some. I took some notes on Joseph's vision and genius, moving from revelation to building institution. Agriculture should be more than farming, because it's a complex and intricate, potentially game-changing value chain driver for national transformation. And no nation can transform a Greek sector without making deliberate action, taking deliberate action to build institution. On this note, I'd like to say that I'd like to congratulate the management of FUNAAB. It's not always that you come to Convocation Lecture and get this kind of value. And it does mean that a lot of thoughts went into this. I'd asked Aig-Imoukhuede to send me the lecture. I think we need to also find a way of, interrogating it a little further so that we, let non-Nigerian benefit from the wisdom that was shared. On this note, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think we have been treated to a great time. And all I can wish is that this 2026 convocation in FUNAAB, coming at a time when FUNAAB is entering in the global map, it shows that we are about to have a convocation that is defining. And all I can say is congratulations and more grace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Let's keep on with the applause, please, until the chairman of this occasion gets back to his seat, please. Thank you. Thank you, sir. We have come to the end of the 33rd Convocation Lecture of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. Right now, with the permission of the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council, we will all rise for the anthems. The FUNAAB anthem first, followed by the national pledge. Thank you. Thank you, the national pledge. I pledge to Nigeria, my country, to be faithful, loyal, and honest, to serve Nigeria with all my strength, to defend our unity and uphold our honor and glory. So help me God. Please let us wait for the top members on the high table, including the procession, to leave the